Welcome to TYT Sports. Jason Rubin, Cenk Uygur right here. I'm doing this segment because I would like to preemptively declare Cam Newton the MVP of the NFL.
And I just came to argue.
Okay, all right, fun for everybody. Here's my thesis. The rest of his team is abysmal. The defense is fine until the fourth quarter. And so I get it. Ron Rivera at this point is good to borderline great coach. So I hear you on that, right? But there's nobody else on offense. Nobody else. He's carrying that team. How's that team undefeated? How is it possible that they're undefeated? I can't believe it. I can't believe they beat the Packers, they beat the Colts, they beat everybody, right? So there is no other person in the NFL that has as great an effect on their team as Cam Newton, almost by a country mile. There's a couple of candidates where I'm willing to have a conversation, but even at the midway point of the season, I can't imagine like anyone else could have as big an impact on their team and have their team performing as well as Cam Newton is with the Panthers.
Here's my antithesis, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
All right.
Two candidates, one much stronger than the other. I'm going to start with the weaker candidate. Just because the Packers have 2 losses and haven't looked great in the last 2 weeks does not mean Aaron Rodgers should not be considered an MVP candidate, as he is almost every single year. And going through the rest of the season, the Packers finished 14-2. That argument's going to come up in another 2 weeks. Well, who's better? Who's the best quarterback in the league?
Okay, let me just handle that real quick.
Go for it.
First of all, Aaron Rodgers is phenomenal. Probably best quarterback right now in the NFL. Wait a minute, Cam Newton's also a quarterback, so doesn't that get rid of my argument? No, because he has a lot of weapons to work with, right? Aaron Rodgers does. Now, mind you, a lot of his weapons got hurt too, Jordy Nelson, and I hear you on that. And a lot of his weapons are made better because of Aaron Rodgers. James Jones is not an NFL player. With any other team. With the Packers, he's a world beater, right? So I get all that. And I'm not dissing Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is phenomenal. But they've lost 2 games, one of which was to the Panthers, right?
That's a very good point.
And oftentimes, for 3 quarters, he looks lost. It doesn't happen often, even though I just said oftentimes. Okay, but from time to time, I'm like, Aaron, what are you doing? What are you doing? Go! Why are you waiting until the fourth quarter? Whereas Cam Newton is more clearly carrying his team.
And I agree with that. It's evident that, you take Cam Newton off the Panthers, they are maybe 0-8.
I mean, come on.
Well, but your case, you can't. You went to the soundboard already.
Yeah, right. If you're going to be 0-8 without the guy and you're 8-0 with him, there's a good chance he's MVP.
Having said that, every single time a team plays the New England Patriots, they know for a fact that the run game will not exist. Granted, Dion Lewis, coming out of nowhere, although I believe he's now out for the season, was established as, okay, a couple weeks into the season, this guy can run the football, who knows how, under Bill Belichick. But every single time you play the Patriots, Tom Brady's going to step back. And in 1.72 seconds, that's what he averages to get the ball out of his hands. He throws to David Givens, Deion Brett, no, I'm sorry, not those nobodies. That wouldn't be for anybody if it wasn't for Tom Brady. Brandon LaFell, Julian Edelman, who got the nickname Minitron, he's being compared to Calvin Johnson. That's ridiculous.
And
he's not. Look, Tom Brady has 22 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, right? He's having his best statistical season since 2007, where he had a guy, I think his name was Randy Moss. He's supposedly like an elite wide receiver for many years, right? The Patriots are also undefeated, and every defense knows they're going to throw the football. It's like guarding Steph Curry in the NBA. He's going to shoot threes, right? Every single time. But it works, and every number supports it. And one reason why I think it would be unfair to rule out Tom Brady somewhat similarly would be voter fatigue, which is this psychological disorder that ripped Jordan MVP away because Karl Malone did great in '97, right? But how could you say Tom Brady is no less of an MVP than Cam Newton? I get it, but you take Tom Brady off that team.
Yeah. Okay, so A, that's a perfectly fair argument. B, I'm going to make an ironic counter-argument, okay? Because according to your logic, there's a very good case to be made that Tom Brady should have been the MVP at least 8 out of the last 10 years.
Of course.
Right? But they hardly ever give it to him, right? They're constantly giving it to Peyton frickin' Manning, who then gets demolished in the playoffs. Every year, everybody's surprised that Manning gets demolished in the playoffs. Now, I get it. I, on the other hand, have said Manning is the best regular season quarterback, right? So I'm not trying to take at least that away from him. And I get it. The other MVPs are Aaron Rodgers and these amazing Adrian Peterson, amazing players. But this year, right, if you're going to make a Karl Malone case,
it's Cam Newton.
It's Cam Newton, and it's this year. Because those other years, yes, Peyton Manning was great, but he had Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne and Edgerrin James and, et cetera. The guy you can make a case for that's Cam Newton-like was Adrian Peterson, who had nobody else on his team.
That's true.
Right? And would carry his team. So I say either make Tom Brady MVP for life or give it to Cam Newton this year.
So that's where I think that's why it's a little bit ironic, because Tom Brady is almost the MVP for life. And look, Bill Simmons always says, and this is both for the NBA and NFL, it's a very arbitrary award for the reason that we don't really have any guidelines for it. Here's what we know about the MVP award. It's given out as a regular season award only, and that's about it. There's no weighted value towards different positions. It almost always goes to a quarterback. And I think rightfully so, as it should, in some cases like Adrian Peterson. And I believe wide receivers have received it once or twice in the past. I could be wrong, though. But it's Tom Brady. And if the Panthers lose 2 games and the Patriots go 15-1 or undefeated, do you still give it to Cam Newton?
No, look, obviously, me preemptively giving it to them is a little absurd, right? So
well, I think it's fair.
Of course. Look, the Panthers might not even win their division. The Falcons are still close enough, and the Falcons have 2 games left with the Panthers. So it is theoretically possible, whereas it is not theoretically possible for the Patriots to lose their division.
Who coaches,
right?
Who coaches the Falcons?
I don't.
Dan Quinn coaches the Falcons. What did he do this last week?
No, I know he was. I couldn't be angrier at what he did this week, although I believe that Dan Quinn has the potential to be a very good coach. Okay, now, having said all this, the bottom line is, of course, things can change in the second half of the season. Of course, right? But look, right now, if there's no Cam Newton, all kidding aside, the Panthers are probably 2-6, okay? Because they do have a very good coach and they do have a very good defense. But they would have no offense whatsoever. You just could, they'd muster up 2 wins against bad teams, and that's about it. Without Tom Brady, they have maybe the greatest coach ever, and he would, if he can find ways for Jonas Gray and Deion Lewis and you name it, right, to be great running backs, and he can find ways for Deion Branch and Brandon LaFell and you name it to be great receivers. I think that he could have found a replacement enough that I bet you, without Brady, the Patriots this year would be 5-3.
Fair enough. Fair point. Last thing I would like to say on Tom Brady and the Patriots, no game's been that close. They beat the Redskins this weekend 27-10, but that game wasn't close. No one watched that.
That we're having a conversation on whether 27-10 was close.
Right, it was.
And it wasn't even that close.
It wasn't close. If you really watched that game and there was no scoreboard like back in, I don't know, the 50s and 60s, where that was a thing where they said you can't put the score up because, and if I'm correct, the reasoning was it takes away from the game. You kind of have no idea, especially in basketball with the NFL, you just have no idea what the score was. You have to count it yourself until halftime, where they go, oh, and the Patriots are winning by 57 points. Right? But the Patriots are just beating down everybody in this ridiculous 7 yards or less offense that Tom Brady has grown into. He's peaked again.
You're preaching to the choir. I have enormous respect for the Patriots, enormous respect for Tom Brady, and I think that probably the greatest NFL player of all time, probably now surpassing people like Jerry Rice, who I thought, was the best ever at any position, right? So all that notwithstanding, this year, Cam Newton, I'm still sticking to my guns, more important to his team and brought his team this far on his back, more so than Brady did for his team. So luckily, there's a second half of the season. We'll find out.